Hi everybody, welcome back, and I think this is probably the first review of kind for me. Today I'm going to talk about Scooby Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion. So despite how this looks like a typical board game, which I also thought so, I bought without thinking too much. This turns out to be actually an escape room game, as you can suggested from Escape From. So the recommended players is actually for one or more. I would recommend at least having about 3 to 4 players at least, 12 plus. And if you like the Scooby Doo's franchise, that's really a plus for this game. Okay, so what do you have inside? I'm not going to really spoil the surprises in the game, so I'm going to just show you what you initially see when you open this up. You will have a readme first, including all the instructions and telling you which the components. You will have one book for each of the characters. There's 5 characters in this game, from the famous Scooby Doo animations, and each of them consists of numbers. So for each of the characters, you can see they don't really overlap. They have a different number, and basically in each of the numbers you will see paragraphs. So for example, for 1190, you will see a paragraph of stories, and some things you get, some things you don't. So how this usually works is that usually not all the characters will be in play all the time. Whichever characters in play, we will just distribute this evenly among all the players, and the players will actually get to read out the part of the story, how they react to certain things. And another thing I'd like to point out is that for this game, each of the different characters have different abilities. So for example, for Velma, her abilities will be research, and you can see Shaggy will be to eat. Death will actually be used, and so on. And Scooby Doo obviously is the smell. So I might show you the last character. So last character is Fred. Fred's ability is to investigate. So he'll be like most of the brain stuff will be his forte. And for Fred is slightly different. As you can see, most of them has a range of about 1,000. Fred has 5,000 to 6,999. But that's a surprise you'll find out in the game itself. So the game also consists of a bag of cards. So these are more or less item cards and stuff like that, which I don't think I will want to spoil it for you, but they contain stuff for you to discover during part of the game. And you do not review them until the paragraph tells you to take which cards. Each of the cards has a number indicate in both corners, and you just picked up the cards. Let's say if it tells you to pick up card number 6, you just look for 6. They are arranged in alphabetical order, so do not shuffle this deck when you open this up. So your standees will indicate each of the characters, and each of the standees has a number in front, which corresponds to the... Okay, I will show you how the numbers work soon enough. And I'll get this also out of the way. This basically envelopes, secret envelopes. You have about 8 of them, and inside each of the envelopes there are actually additional components, be it cards or props that's used for the game, and you will not need to open this up until they tell you to. You have locations. So locations, there's a whole deck of this, and these location cards basically so actually I can show you one of the location, for example, which you will eventually discover in sequence. So this is not the first, but anyway, so how do you read paragraph? So for example, if Shaggy wants to eat stuff, so he will actually maybe he want to eat up this mask, for example, so he will look for 2589 in the passage. And similarly, if he wants to eat up the door or something, I don't know why he want to do that, it will be 2389. So this is a very intuitive way to interact with different parts of the room, different parts of things inside. So you will have different rooms, and then there's different characters that will actually interact with the different things in the room. And it might not necessarily be just strictly eat. It could be his intention to interact with it, and he might end up eating, but it may not. So you just flip through the books, and the book will actually tells you if there's some things that actually happened, something that he said, something that maybe advance, and you get more cards and things like that. So as you can imagine, some of the things, some of the items will transform or maybe used up when you actually do interaction like this. And there isn't really a penalty per se in this game. So unless we talk about this special things called the Stooby's snack tracker. So according to this book is that whenever you try to do something and it doesn't, and that paragraph doesn't appear in the individual booklets, that means it's a miss and you're trying something that's wrong. So you eat up one of the snack here. So you keep track of how much snack you have, and that is basically is a scoring for the game. But of course, it's entirely up to you guys how you want to manage this. I mean, you can do without as a super easy mode, or you just keep track of it and try to challenge yourself by keeping as much snack as possible until the end of the game. And what if you are stuck? Oh, so that is already been thought of. So there's a hint chart here, so there's nothing really to spoil here, but to show you that in the various location you can actually look at the various different hint from hint 1 to hint 6. So for example, if you are like stuck in the master bedroom, if you need the first hint, then you check 5150, and that happens to be Fred, I think. So inside the book, yep, so you look for 5150 and read that, and that is actually part of the hint. So you will take the hint in order, and any hint that's in yellow, you will actually incur one Scooby snack to actually use up the hint. So this is quite interesting game. And before I actually ends up with this video, I also want to mention that in this game there is actually two different acts. I think they call it chapters. So there are actually two different chapters. So upon solving some of the puzzles in the first chapter, and you advance until there's a part where you enter chapter 2. So they also give you a very, very nice big envelope for you to store the things that you discover in chapter 1, and they will also tell you what to transfer over and how do you start chapter 2. So for example, chapter 2 will actually start with 3001, and then you actually can continue. So you've been evenly broken up into two different parts of the game. Although there have been a lot of different reviews saying that they take about 2 hours, but I think in general it will take about 3 hours at least, and as depending on how many characters, how many players you have playing, because the less player you have means that you need to manage more books and read more chapters. And it also kind of like depends on your reading speed though. If you read fast, aloud, and that, I think that will shorten some time. But my advice is do enjoy the game, because the game is really quite immersive. It has a lot of clever puzzles, and so try to play out the part of the different characters in Scooby Doo, especially if you like the animation a lot. It's really a very nostalgic touch to all this, and the components are really good. As you can see, even though the location cards are not really very thick, they are pretty thick enough. And this game, because the nature of it is an escape room game, is usually only good enough for one play with the same group of people. And actually, even if you play the second time, right, you already realize that some of the stuff, how to do it, and there is no randomization. The puzzles are the same. The only difference is that no, actually it's not a difference. Is that even though the puzzles are lie all over the place, you can advance in a game, but there's a final puzzle to this game. Like if you have watched all the animations of Scooby Doo, you realize that most of the so-called bad guys, be it ghosts or werewolf, in the end it turns out to be somebody's evil plot or plans, and as such you have to guess who was the one doing it, and you actually have to pull off the mask from somebody. So this is like really like the animations in that very, very same aspect. You have to make guess as to who is the real culprit in the end, and that is the part that's actually you need to pick up clues and stuff that's along the way. Maybe it's in the passage, maybe it's in some of the pictures or some of the items, and that is what makes this game really interesting. So go through it with detail, don't rush, because I think you're going to go play through it once. It doesn't matter if it's 3 hours or 4 hours, because this is really enjoyable in that sense. So that is my advice for playing through this game. You may want to play it through 2 sittings, I mean using the save envelope, or just do it once. I did it over, I think it's about 3+ hours, one sitting with everything. Of course there's a break of dinner in between, but that's how we decided to do it, and it was a really enjoyable evening, especially for the theme of doing this for Halloween, with the hauntings and everything. It just set the moods right for nice gathering. So that's all I really want to talk about in terms of review. If you ask me about how does this compare to the rest of the escape games? I would say that the quality of, like for example the envelopes, they are made of recycled paper, I think. But I'm not too concerned about this because it's the puzzle that counts. And what's inside the envelope that counts. So so in the various envelopes, you can see some of them, they will tell that there are like multiple components inside. But some of them is only just one item inside. They are hidden for good reasons, so that you do not make guesses ahead of time. And I think it's in terms of the puzzles, there's about 50 over cards here also. So there's a lot of items and stuff to discover. The puzzles are quite well linked together, as in the different characters will appear at different portions of the games, and you're only limited to certain characters doing certain actions. So that is kind of like a limitation, but it's also a way that the games help you progress, so that you can focus on certain characters' action to solve that portion of the game, and do not need to worry about every single character individually interacting with the room. Because, for example, at the start, you will not have all the characters immediately appear in the game. They'll be either trapped, missing, or things like that. So this is in a way to narrowing the scope, and then so that you will not be spending time going wild goose chase. And I think that is actually quite fun. So in this game, if you're looking at 5 characters with 5 different books, right, you do not really need to stick to all the, each player sticking to one character book throughout the whole game, as in some of the characters comes and go and things like that. So you can actually switch out the roles and then play with different characters when the characters are appear. And if let's say the character is not temporarily not available, the same player could actually just switch to another character and so on. So this is really about playing out through the whole, imagine this like animation, playing through an animation, and you're not really playing that character per se. So if you think about that, then in that case it's quite enjoyable. And I think throughout the whole 3 hours, you wouldn't have 2 hours to 4 hours anyway. So you wouldn't have players that are sitting around, oh, it's not my turn, I'm not doing anything, and things like that. So it doesn't feel bored in that sense. That is where I think this game really excelled in itself. And in terms of the rest of the component, I don't really have too much to say about it. They are basically cards. There isn't really plastic tokens and stuff like that. So I think in terms of that, this does a very good things about not being environment unfriendly, and there's nothing that's being destroyed in the game. So you could actually just repack everything. In fact, throughout the game, they already kind of like hinted to tell you which item goes back to which container and which envelope. So you actually back count the game throughout the game itself. So it's not really like have to have a repack instruction sheet to redo everything all at the end. So that's not really the case, because most of the stuff will already be packed back into where it came from as you follow the instruction. And right near the end, I think mostly you just need to arrange some of the cards and stuff like that. So there's a lot of puzzles inside. I don't know if I will be spoiling this by saying, but there's actually one of the puzzles that involves some of the location card joins together, and there's kind of like a maze or something like that. So that part of the puzzle was one of my favorite, because there's many ways to do that puzzle. You would think so, but actually it turns out that there's only really one right way to do it, and it's very interesting to find out how that puzzle had worked. And you could randomly guess the outcome, but of course it's very fun to just go through and really find out the answers for certain, and that is really, I think, where the fun came in. Overall, I find that this is one of the better escape games I played. The puzzles are good, and I think the components is reasonably good enough. The price point is, if you were to think about this game as 2-part games, and maybe it's 2 games, so the price point isn't that bad. So it's still about the same price point as about per game, about $10 to $12, similar to Exit. But unlike Exit, you don't destroy anything. And unlike Unlock which only had cards, this has a little bit more component, as in there's location, there's standees. And I really like the way that they use the different characters to actually interact with the different items, matching the first letter with the last 3 letters and so on. So this is really very unique in a sense. I would say that give it a try if you like escape room games, and I don't think you will regret playing this. In fact, just look at all the Board Game Geek ratings, you will tell that most people agree that this is a pretty good game, and probably one of the best immersion in terms of animation kind of escape game. I have not seen another animation escape game though, but so maybe this is the first. But if you like Scooby Doo especially, you will even enjoy this more. So that's all for my review for Escape from the Haunted Mansion. It's a Scooby Doo game, and it's an escape room game, and I think you can find it in a lot of stores. Maybe I suppose this is quite a common commodity because it's not like a limited Kickstarter exclusive or anything like that. So I guess maybe even shops like hypermarts and local game shop will carry this. So go give it a try if you like it, or if you can complete it at one of those board game cafe, it will be a fantastic idea as well. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you like the video, you can just click like and subscribe, and I will just run through more content in the future. Until next time, that's all for the review for this game. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.